Blackwater, Dakota Territory, 1882. Hannah Hayes stood behind the bar of her saloon, the only drink house within 50 miles, and watched the stranger bleed onto her clean floor. The man had stumbled through her door just as the windstorm hit, his cavalry coat torn and his left shoulder soaked dark red. Outside, the wind tore at the roofs of the trading post buildings and sent barrels rolling down the dirt street. Hannah kept her hand near the shotgun under the bar. A wounded man could be desperate, and desperate men were dangerous. The stranger looked up at her with gray eyes that held too much pain and not enough fear.
I need a place to stay until this storm passes. I can pay.
His voice was steady despite the blood. Hannah studied him. Former military, that much was clear from the way he held himself even while injured. The kind of man who had seen battle and survived it. She should turn him away. She had enough trouble already, and the letter hidden in her locked desk upstairs was proof of that. But the wind outside shrieked like a living thing, and no one deserved to die in a storm.
You can stay in the back room, but if you try anything, I will shoot you myself.
She moved out from behind the bar and helped him toward the narrow hallway. He was heavy with muscle and taller than her by half a foot. His dark brown hair was cut short, military style, and his jaw was set against the pane. She pushed open the door to the small room she used for storage and guided him to the cot against the wall. He sat down hard, his breath coming faster now.
Name is Jasper Blackwood. Used to ride with the Union cavalry.
Hannah Hayes. I own this place.
She fetched water and clean cloth from the kitchen, moving quickly. The wind hammered at the walls, and somewhere outside something metal crashed and scraped across the ground. When she returned, Jasper had managed to shrug off his coat. The shirt underneath was soaked through.
I need to see the wound.
He nodded and pulled the shirt over his head with a grimace. The bullet had gone clean through the shoulder, which was good, but the wound was still bleeding and needed stitching. Hannah had sewn up injuries before. Living on the frontier meant learning to handle things yourself. She threaded a needle and poured whiskey over it and over the wound. Jasper hissed, but did not pull away. She worked quickly, her fingers steady.
Who shot you?
Army contractor named Langley Crowley. He has been skimming supplies meant for the forts and selling them for profit. I found proof, and he found out I knew.
Hannah's hands paused for just a heartbeat. Langley Crowley. She knew that name. The letter upstairs was about him. A letter written by a dying soldier who had witnessed Crowley ordering the murder of a whistleblower 2 years ago. The soldier had given it to Hannah 6 months ago and made her promise to keep it safe until someone trustworthy could deliver it to the territorial governor. The soldier had died 3 days later, and Hannah had been living with that letter ever since, waiting for the right person. Crowley had men in town, watching, always watching.
Crowley is dangerous. If he knows you have proof, he will not stop until you are dead.
I know. That is why I came here. I heard Blackwater was off the main routes. I need time to heal before I can move again.
Hannah tied off the last stitch and wrapped his shoulder with clean bandages.
You picked a bad time to arrive. The drought has the ranchers fighting over wells, and this windstorm is going to trap everyone in town for at least 2 days. If Crowley has men here, they will find you.
Then, I will deal with them when they come.
She met his eyes and saw something there that surprised her. Not recklessness, but resolve. The kind of determination that came from a man who had already lost too much and refused to lose more. She stood and wiped her hands on a cloth.
Get some rest. I will bring you food later.
She left the room and locked the door behind her, then climbed the narrow stairs to her private room above the saloon. The wind shook the building, and she heard the creak of timber under strain. She unlocked her desk and pulled out the letter, yellowed and creased from being handled too many times. The dying soldier's shaky handwriting told the story of how Crowley had ordered a man killed to cover up his theft. It was enough to hang Crowley if it reached the right hands. And now, a former cavalry officer who had evidence against the same man was bleeding in her back room. Hannah folded the letter and tucked it into the hidden pocket she had sewn into the waistband of her skirt. She had carried it there for months, afraid to leave it anywhere else. The storm outside roared louder, and she heard the crash of something heavy hitting the ground. She went back downstairs and checked the windows. The street was a chaos of flying debris. Shingles torn from roofs, pieces of wood, a wagon wheel rolling end over end. No one was outside. Everyone had taken shelter. She poured herself a small whiskey and sat at the bar, listening to the storm. Jasper Blackwood was trouble, but he might also be the answer she had been waiting for. If he was truly going after Crowley, the letter could be the evidence he needed. But trusting the wrong person could get her killed. She had learned that lesson the hard way when her husband had been murdered 5 years ago for refusing to sell this saloon to Crowley's business partner. Hannah had inherited the place and the enemies that came with it. She finished the whiskey and went to check on Jasper. He was asleep, his breathing steady. She stood in the doorway and watched him for a moment. Even injured, he looked like a man who could handle himself in a fight. His hands were scarred, his knuckles thick from old breaks. A soldier's hands. She closed the door quietly and returned to the main room. The wind howled, and the building groaned, and Hannah sat at the bar with her shotgun across her lap, waiting for whatever came next. The storm raged through the night. Hannah dozed in her chair, but woke at every loud crash. By dawn, the wind had died to a steady howl instead of a shriek. She stood and stretched, her back stiff, and went to check the damage. 2 of the shutters had been torn off, and the front door had a crack running down the center, but the building had held. She looked out at the street and saw destruction everywhere. Roofs torn open, walls collapsed, debris piled against every structure. The trading post looked like a battlefield. She heard movement from the back room and turned to see Jasper standing in the hallway, one hand braced against the wall.
How bad is it?
Bad enough. We are stuck here until people can clear the roads. Could be 2 days. Maybe more.
He walked slowly to the bar and sat down on one of the stools. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear.
You should not be up yet.
I have been hurt worse. I will live.
Hannah poured him water and set it in front of him.
Crowley has men in this town. A man named Voss and another named Kern. They work for him, and they watch everything. If they see you, they will report back.
Then, I will stay out of sight.
That might not be enough.
She hesitated, then made her decision. She reached into the hidden pocket of her skirt and pulled out the letter. She set it on the bar between them.
A dying soldier gave me this 6 months ago. It is a witness account of Crowley ordering a murder to cover up his supply theft. The soldier made me promise to keep it safe until I could get it to the territorial governor.
Jasper picked up the letter carefully and read it. His expression darkened.
This is exactly what I need. With this and the ledgers I copied, we can bring Crowley down.
If we live long enough to deliver it.
Then we make sure we do.
Hannah felt something shift in her chest. It had been a long time since someone had said we instead of I. She had been alone for 5 years, fighting her own battles. And here was a man who spoke like they were already allies.
Why did you show me this?
Because I think you are the person the soldier wanted me to find, and because I am tired of waiting for Crowley to kill me.
Jasper folded the letter and handed it back to her.
Keep it hidden. We need a plan.
Before Hannah could answer, the front door opened, and 3 men walked in. She recognized them immediately. Voss, Kern, and a man named Pike, who worked the freight lines. All 3 worked for Crowley. Voss was tall and thin, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw. Kern was shorter and heavier, with cold blue eyes. Pike was the kind of man who smiled when he hurt people. They stopped when they saw Jasper sitting at the bar. Voss tilted his head. The men spoke, but Hannah did not let them finish. She stepped between them and Jasper, her hand moving to the shotgun she had left behind the bar.
This is private property, and you were not invited. Get out.
Voss smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. He said they were just checking to make sure everyone survived the storm, but Hannah knew better. They had come looking for Jasper. Kern's hand drifted toward his gun.
I said, get out.
Jasper stood slowly, his hand resting on the revolver at his hip.
You heard her. Leave.
The tension stretched tight. Pike's smile faded. Then, Voss nodded and turned toward the door. He said they would be back to help with repairs, but the threat was clear. They knew Jasper was here now. The 3 men left, and Hannah locked the door behind them.
They will tell Crowley, you are here.
Then, we do not have much time.
Crowley will not come himself. He will send men to make it look like an accident. That is how he works. Patient, like a spider.
Then, we need to move first.
Hannah looked at him.
What do you have in mind?
We find out what Crowley is planning, and we stop it before he can move against us.
Hannah nodded. She had spent 5 years playing it safe, hiding, waiting. Maybe it was time to fight back. They spent the rest of the morning planning. Jasper told her about the ledgers he had copied from Crowley's office. He had hidden them in a saddlebag buried outside of town before he was shot. If they could retrieve them and combine them with Hannah's letter, they would have enough evidence to bring Crowley down. But first, they needed to survive. Hannah knew Crowley's methods. He never acted directly. He staged accidents, made things look natural. A roof collapsing, a horse spooked into a stampede, a fire that started from a tipped lantern. She had seen it happen to others who had crossed him.
Crowley is planning something big. I heard Pike talking at the bar 2 weeks ago. He mentioned a train and a timeline. He stopped when he saw me listening.
A train heist. That makes sense. If Crowley is moving stolen supplies, he needs to transport them. A train would be the easiest way.
The rail line runs 10 miles west of here. There is a water stop where the trains slow down.
If we can find out when the heist is planned, we can alert the authorities and catch Crowley in the act.
That still leaves us with the problem of staying alive long enough to do it.
Jasper stood and walked to the window, looking out at the wrecked street.
Crowley will move soon. He knows I am here, and he knows I have evidence. He cannot afford to wait.
Then, we need to make him think we are not a threat.
How?
By giving him what he wants. Or making him think we did.
Hannah pulled a blank piece of paper from behind the bar and wrote a short note. She folded it and sealed it with wax.
I will send word through Pike that I want to make a deal. I will tell Crowley I have the letter, and I am willing to sell it to him for enough money to leave town. That will buy us time.
And make you a target.
I have been a target for 5 years. At least this way I control when and where he comes for me.
Jasper studied her, and she saw respect in his eyes.
You are braver than most soldiers I knew.
I am just tired of being afraid.
She sent the note with a boy who worked at the trading post, and they waited. By midday, a reply came back. Crowley agreed to meet her at the train water stop at sunset the next day. He would bring the money, and she would bring the letter. Hannah knew it was a trap, but it was also an opportunity. If they could catch Crowley at the water stop with stolen supplies waiting to be loaded, they could prove everything.
We need help. We cannot take on Crowley and his men alone.
The sheriff is in Crowley's pocket. Most of the men in town are too afraid to cross him.
What about the ranchers? You said the drought has them desperate.
They hate Crowley because he controls the freight lines and charges them double to ship their cattle. But they will not fight unless they think they can win.
Then we make sure they think they can win.
Hannah thought about it. The ranchers were tough, weathered men who had survived drought and harsh winters. If they believed they had a chance, they would fight.
There is a man named Coulter who owns the largest ranch east of here. He lost his son 2 years ago in a freight accident that everyone knows Crowley arranged. If anyone will help us, it is him.
Then we go to him. Tonight.
Hannah nodded. She locked up the saloon and went upstairs to change into riding clothes. She tucked the letter back into her hidden pocket and strapped a small revolver to her thigh under her skirt. When she came back downstairs, Jasper was checking his gun. His shoulder was still bandaged, but he moved with more ease now. They slipped out the back door and made their way to the stable. The wind had died down, but the air was thick with dust. Hannah saddled 2 horses quickly, and they rode east out of town, keeping to the low ground to avoid being seen. The ride to Coulter's ranch took 2 hours. The land was dry and cracked, the wells nearly empty. They passed abandoned homesteads and empty cattle pens. The drought had broken this territory, and men like Crowley had profited from the desperation. Coulter's ranch was a sprawling collection of buildings surrounded by a wooden fence. Hannah and Jasper rode up to the gate and dismounted. A man with a rifle stepped out of the barn, his face hard. He called out, asking what they wanted.
I need to speak to Coulter. It is about Crowley.
The man's expression changed. He lowered the rifle and gestured for them to follow. They walked to the main house, and Coulter met them on the porch. He was a tall man in his 50s, his face lined and sun-darkened, his hands rough from years of work. Coulter asked why they had come.
Because Crowley is planning a train heist tomorrow night at the water stop. If we can catch him in the act, we can bring him down. But we need help.
Coulter looked at Jasper. He asked who Jasper was.
Former Union cavalry. I have evidence that Crowley has been stealing army supplies. Combined with what Hannah has, we can put him in prison.
Coulter was quiet for a long moment. Then, he nodded. He said he would gather his men and meet them at the water stop. He said if there was a chance to make Crowley pay, he would take it.
Thank you.
They rode back to Blackwater as the sun began to set. The sky was streaked with orange and red, and the wind had picked up again, carrying the smell of dust and coming rain. They reached the saloon after dark and went inside. Hannah locked the door and checked the windows. Everything was quiet.
We should rest. Tomorrow will be hard.
I do not think I can sleep.
Then, we will stay awake together.
They sat at the bar, and Hannah poured 2 glasses of whiskey. They drank in silence for a while, the lamplight casting soft shadows.
Why did you join the cavalry?
My father was a soldier. I grew up believing it was the right thing to do. Serve your country. Protect the people who cannot protect themselves. I believed that until I saw what men like Crowley do. They hide behind uniforms and contracts and steal from the people they are supposed to serve.
You sound like you still believe in protecting people.
I do, just not the same way I used to.
What will you do after this is over?
I do not know. I have nowhere to go. No family left. The cavalry does not want me anymore, because I asked too many questions.
You could stay here.
Jasper looked at her, surprised.
Why would you want that?
Because I am tired of being alone. And because I think you are too.
He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached across the bar and took her hand. His grip was warm and strong.
I would like that.
Hannah felt something in her chest loosen, a knot she had been carrying for years. She had not let anyone close since her husband died. But Jasper was different. He understood danger and loss, and the choice to keep fighting anyway.
We should get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll decide everything.
They went upstairs, and Hannah gave Jasper the small guest room while she took her own room across the hall. She lay in bed and listened to the wind rattling the shutters. She thought about the meeting tomorrow, about Crowley and his men, about the risk they were taking. But she also thought about Jasper's hand holding hers, and the way he had said he would like to stay. She closed her eyes and finally slept. The next day arrived too quickly. Hannah woke before dawn and dressed in her riding clothes again. She checked her revolver and made sure the letter was secure in her hidden pocket. Downstairs, Jasper was already awake, drinking coffee.
Ready?
As ready as I will ever be.
They ate a quick breakfast and then rode out toward the water stop. The sun was just rising, painting the sky pale gold. The land was still and quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. They reached the water stop an hour before sunset. It was a small wooden platform with a water tank and a single storage shed. The train tracks stretched in both directions, disappearing into the flat horizon. They dismounted and checked the area. The shed was unlocked and empty, except for a few crates.
Crowley will bring men. We need to be ready.
Coulter and his men should be here soon.
They waited as the sun moved lower in the sky. The wind picked up, carrying dust across the tracks. Hannah felt the weight of the letter in her pocket and the revolver against her thigh. This was it. Everything they had planned came down to the next few hours. As the sun touched the horizon, they heard the sound of horses. Coulter and 5 of his ranch hands rode up, all of them armed. Coulter dismounted and nodded to Hannah. He said his men were ready. He said they would hide in the shed and along the tracks, waiting for Crowley to arrive.
Thank you.
Coulter's men took their positions, disappearing into the shadows. Hannah and Jasper stood on the platform, waiting. The sun sank lower, and the sky turned red and purple. Then they heard more horses. Crowley rode up with 6 men, including Voss and Kern. He was a man in his 40s, clean-shaven, dressed in an expensive coat that looked out of place in the dust and wind. His face was calm, almost pleasant, but his eyes were cold. He dismounted slowly and walked toward the platform. Crowley greeted Hannah, his voice smooth and quiet. He said he was glad she had decided to be reasonable. He said he had the money she asked for.
Where is it?
Crowley gestured to one of his men, who brought forward a saddlebag. He opened it to show stacks of bills. Crowley said it was all there, $5,000. He said it was enough for her to start over somewhere far away. He held out his hand for the letter. Hannah did not move.
First, tell me about the train.
Crowley's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. He asked what she meant.
The train heist. The one you are planning tonight. I know about it.
Crowley's smile faded. He said she was making a mistake. He said she should have taken the money and left.
I am done running.
Crowley raised his hand, and his men drew their guns. But before they could fire, Coulter and his men stepped out of hiding, their rifles aimed at Crowley's group. Jasper drew his revolver and aimed it at Crowley.
Drop your guns. Now.
For a long moment, no one moved. Then Voss made a move for his weapon, and Jasper fired. The shot hit Voss in the shoulder and he went down. The other men froze.
I said drop them.
One by one, Crowley's men threw down their guns. Coulter's men moved in and tied them up. Crowley stood still, his face finally showing emotion. Anger, dark and controlled. He said this was not over. He said Hannah had no proof.
I have this.
She pulled out the letter and held it up.
A witness account of you ordering a murder. And Jasper has the ledgers showing your theft. It is over, Crowley.
Crowley's jaw tightened. He said no one would believe her. He said he had friends in high places.
Not high enough. We are taking you to the territorial governor ourselves.
In the distance, they heard the whistle of a train. It was coming toward the water stop, right on schedule. Jasper looked at Hannah.
That must be the train he was planning to rob.
Then, let us make sure it gets through safely.
Coulter's men loaded Crowley and his crew onto their horses, hands tied. The train slowed as it approached the water stop, and the engineer leaned out, asking if everything was all right. Jasper stepped forward and explained quickly. The engineer nodded and said he would report it to the authorities at the next station. The train pulled away, safe and untouched. Hannah stood on the platform and watched it disappear into the twilight. It was over. Crowley was finished. She felt Jasper's hand on her shoulder.
You did it.
We did it.
Coulter rode up beside them. He said he would take Crowley and his men to the territorial marshal in the morning. He said Hannah and Jasper had his gratitude. He said if they ever needed help, they knew where to find him.
Thank you.
Coulter tipped his hat and rode off with his men and the prisoners. Hannah and Jasper were left alone on the platform as the last light faded from the sky. The wind had died down, and the air was cool and still.
What now?
Now we go home.
They rode back to Blackwater in the dark, following the familiar trail. The town was quiet when they arrived, most of the buildings still showing damage from the windstorm. They put the horses in the stable and walked to the saloon. Hannah unlocked the door and they went inside. She lit a lamp and set it on the bar. The room felt different now, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted.
You were right. We made it.
I was not sure we would.
but you never let that stop you.
Neither did you.
Jasper reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver locket. He held it out to her.
I found this in Crowley's saddlebag when we were tying him up. I think it belonged to someone important.
Hannah took the locket and opened it. Inside was a photograph of a young woman and a man in a cavalry uniform. The woman was Hannah's mother. The man was Jasper's father. Hannah stared at the photograph, her heart pounding.
How is this possible?
I do not know. My father died when I was 10. I never knew he had met anyone out here.
My mother died when I was 8. She never mentioned knowing a soldier.
They looked at each other, the locket between them. It made no sense, but there it was. A connection between them that went back further than either of them knew. A promise made by their parents, maybe. Or just a strange twist of fate.
Maybe we were meant to find each other.
Maybe we were.
Jasper closed the locket gently and handed it back to her.
Keep it. It belongs to you. Now.
It belongs to both of us.
Hannah set the locket on the bar and looked around the empty saloon. The tables were still scattered from the windstorm, the floor dusty, the shutters broken. But it was hers, and now it could be theirs.
The place needs a lot of work.
I am good with my hands. I can help.
I was hoping you would say that.
She moved closer to him, and he reached out and pulled her into his arms. His embrace was warm and solid, and Hannah let herself lean into it. For the first time in 5 years, she felt safe.
I meant what I said. I want to stay.
Then stay.
He kissed her, and it was slow and gentle, a promise made without words. When they pulled apart, Hannah smiled.
We should probably clean this place up.
Tomorrow. Tonight. Let us just be glad we are alive.
They sat together at the bar, the lamplight soft around them, and talked about what came next. Repairs to the saloon, a trip to deliver the evidence to the governor, a future that was finally theirs to decide. Hours passed, and the night grew late. Hannah stood and stretched.
I should get some sleep.
Me too.
But neither of them moved. They stayed there, close together, unwilling to break the moment. Finally, Jasper spoke.
Hannah, I know this is fast, but I do not want to waste time. I have seen too many people wait too long and lose their chance.
What are you saying?
I am saying I want to marry you. Not someday. Soon.
Hannah felt her breath catch. She had not expected this, but she realized she wanted it. She wanted him, wanted the life they could build together.
How soon?
Within the week.
That is fast.
Too fast?
No. Not fast enough.
She kissed him again, and this time it was deeper, full of all the things they had been through and all the things still to come. When they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling.
We will need a preacher.
There is one in the next town over. We can ride there tomorrow.
Then tomorrow. It is.
They stood in the empty saloon, the dance hall that had seen so many nights of noise and music, now silent except for the wind rattling the broken shutters. Hannah looked at Jasper, and he looked back at her, and they both knew that whatever came next, they would face it together.
I never thought I would find someone like you.
I never thought I would let anyone in.
I am glad you did.
So am I.
They spent the night making plans, talking about the farm Jasper had dreamed of, the saloon Hannah wanted to rebuild, the life they would share. By the time dawn broke, they had it all mapped out. A small wedding, just the two of them and the preacher. A quiet life in Blackwater, running the saloon together, and maybe, someday, starting a family. It was simple, but it was theirs. The morning came cold and clear. The windstorm finally spent. Hannah and Jasper rode out to the next town just after sunrise, the locket tucked safely in Hannah's coat pocket. The preacher was an old man with kind eyes and a quick smile, and he agreed to marry them 3 days later. They rode back to Blackwater in the afternoon, and the town looked different now. The damage from the storm was still there, but it felt like a place that could heal, a place where they could build something lasting. Over the next 2 days, they worked side by side to repair the saloon. Jasper fixed the shutters and the roof, his shoulders still sore, but healing. Hannah swept the floors and scrubbed the tables, and together they made the place feel like home again. On the 3rd day, they dressed in their best clothes and rode back to the preacher. The ceremony was short and simple, just the words they needed to bind their lives together. Jasper slipped a plain gold band onto Hannah's finger, and she did the same for him.
I promise to stand by you, no matter what comes.
I promise the same.
The preacher smiled and pronounced them husband and wife, and Jasper kissed Hannah there in the small chapel, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. They rode back to Blackwater as the sun began to set, the sky turning gold and red. The saloon was waiting for them, and so was the future. That night, they stood together in the empty dance hall, the lamplight soft around them. Hannah leaned against Jasper, and he wrapped his arms around her.
This is it. Our life.
Our life.
I like the sound of that.
They stayed there for a long time, just holding each other, the wind quiet outside, and the world finally at peace. The letter was gone, delivered to the governor. Langley Crowley was in custody, his crimes exposed. The town was safe, and so were they. Hannah looked up at Jasper, and he smiled down at her.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking we should dance.
There is no music.
We do not need music.
He laughed and took her hand, and they moved slowly across the empty floor, the only sound their footsteps and the creak of the old boards. It was not graceful, but it was theirs. A quiet moment in a life that had been full of noise and danger. A beginning.
I love you, Hannah.
I love you too, Jasper.
They danced until the lamp burned low, and then they went upstairs to the room above the saloon, the one Hannah had lived in alone for so long. It was different now, warmer, full of promise. They lay down together, and Jasper pulled her close.
What do you want to do tomorrow?
I want to wake up next to you. After that, we can figure it out.
That sounds perfect.
Hannah closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt truly at peace. The past was behind them, the future was ahead, and they had each other. That was all they needed. The wind picked up outside, but it was gentle now, just a whisper against the windows. Inside, the saloon was warm and safe. Jasper held Hannah close, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart.
Do you think we will be happy?
I think we already are.
Good.
She smiled and let herself drift off to sleep, knowing that when she woke up, he would still be there. Tomorrow they would start their new life together, rebuilding the saloon, working the land, making Blackwater a place they could call home. But tonight, they were just Hannah and Jasper, husband and wife. Two people who had found each other in the middle of a storm and decided to hold on. The lamp flickered and went out, and the room fell into darkness. But it was a peaceful darkness, full of warmth and promise. Outside, the stars came out, and the wind sang softly through the eaves. Inside, two hearts beat as one, and the W morning came slowly, the sun rising over the flat plains of Dakota Territory and casting long shadows across Blackwater. Hannah woke first, her eyes opening to the sight of Jasper sleeping beside her. His face was peaceful, the lines of worry and pain smoothed away in sleep. She watched him for a moment, still half unable to believe this was real, that he was here, that they were together, that the nightmare of the past weeks was finally over. She reached out and touched his face gently, and his eyes opened.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you sleep well?
Better than I have in years.
He smiled and pulled her closer, and they lay there together as the room filled with soft morning light. Outside, they could hear the sounds of the town waking up. Hammers striking nails, voices calling to each other, the creak of wagon wheels. Blackwater was rebuilding, and so were they. Eventually, they rose and dressed, moving through the familiar motions of the morning. Hannah made coffee on the small stove in the corner, while Jasper looked out the window at the street below.
The town looks different.
How so?
Hopeful.
She came to stand beside him, and they looked out together at the dusty street, the buildings with their patched roofs and broken shutters, the people moving about their business. It was not much, but it was home.
We should go see the preacher today.
Are you sure you want to do this so fast?
I am sure. Are you?
I have never been more sure of anything.
They finished their coffee and went downstairs. The saloon looked worse in the daylight. The damage from the windstorm more obvious. Tables were overturned, chairs broken, the mirror behind the bar cracked down the middle. But it was nothing they could not fix. Hannah walked behind the bar and ran her hand along the scarred wood.
We will start here. Clean up the glass, fix the tables, get the place running again.
How long do you think it will take?
A few weeks, maybe. We can do it together.
I would like that.
They worked through the morning, sweeping up broken glass, righting furniture, patching holes in the walls. It was hard work, but it felt good. Productive. Like they were building something instead of running from it. Around midday, they took a break and sat together on the front steps of the saloon. The sun was high and hot, the wind picking up dust from the street. Jasper wiped his forehead with his sleeve and looked at Hannah.
I have been thinking about the letter.
What about it?
Do you think the governor will actually do something?
I think so. The evidence was solid. Langley will hang.
Good.
Hannah leaned against him, and they sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then, she spoke.
I want to tell you something.
What is it?
The locket. I looked at the photograph again this morning.
And?
I think the man in the picture is my father.
Jasper turned to look at her.
Are you sure?
No. But the resemblance is there. And if it is him, then the woman must be your mother.
That would mean our parents knew each other.
More than that. It would mean they were close. Maybe even in love.
Jasper took the locket from his pocket and opened it, studying the faded photograph.
My mother never talked about her past. She died when I was young.
Mine too. Maybe they had reasons to keep it secret.
Or maybe they just never got the chance to tell us.
Hannah took the locket back and closed it gently.
Whatever it was, it brought us together.
I am grateful for that.
They sat together for a while longer, then went back inside to continue working. The afternoon passed quickly, and by evening, the saloon was starting to look like itself again. The glass was swept up, the tables repaired, the bar polished. It was not perfect, but it was theirs. As the sun set, they rode out to the next town to find the preacher. The ride was quiet, the landscape rolling out around them in shades of gold and purple. Jasper rode beside Hannah, his horse moving easily despite the injury to his shoulder. He was healing, getting stronger every day. When they reached the town, they found the preacher at the small church on the edge of the settlement. He was an older man with kind eyes and a weathered face. Hannah explained what they wanted, and he smiled. The preacher agreed to marry them in 3 days, back in Blackwater. It would be a simple ceremony, just the two of them and a few witnesses. Nothing fancy, but that was how they wanted it. They rode back to Blackwater as the stars came out, the night cool and clear. When they reached the saloon, they stabled the horses and went inside. The place was dark and quiet. The only light coming from the lamp Hannah lit on the bar.
3 days.
3 days.
Are you nervous?
A little. You?
A little. But mostly I am just happy.
Jasper pulled her close and kissed her, and Hannah felt the last of her fears slip away. This was right. They were right.
I want to give you something.
What?
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small ring, simple and silver.
It was my mother's. I have carried it with me for years. I want you to have it.
Hannah took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly.
It is beautiful.
So are you.
They stood together in the lamplight, the saloon quiet around them, and made plans for the wedding. It would be small and simple, just the way they wanted. A new beginning in a place they could finally call home. The next 3 days passed in a blur of work and preparation. Hannah cleaned the saloon from top to bottom, scrubbing the floors and polishing the bar until it shone. Jasper repaired the shutters and fixed the broken tables, his shoulder healing enough that he could work without too much pain. They worked side by side, talking and laughing, building something together. On the morning of the wedding, Hannah woke early and dressed in the best dress she owned, a simple blue gown that had belonged to her mother. She brushed her hair and pinned it up, then looked at herself in the mirror. She looked different somehow, lighter, happier. The weight of the past 5 years had finally lifted. Jasper waited for her downstairs, dressed in his uniform jacket, cleaned and pressed. He looked handsome and strong, and when he saw her, his face lit up.
You look beautiful.
You look pretty good yourself.
They walked together to the church, where the preacher was waiting. A few townspeople had gathered to witness the ceremony, curious about the couple who had taken down Langley Crawley and saved the town. The preacher began the ceremony, his voice steady and kind. He spoke about love and commitment, about building a life together through good times and bad. Hannah and Jasper stood facing each other, hands clasped, eyes locked. When it came time for the vows, Jasper spoke first.
I promise to stand by you, to protect you, to love you, for as long as I live.
I promise to trust you, to fight beside you, to love you with everything I have.
The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Jasper kissed Hannah as the small crowd applauded. It was simple and perfect, exactly what they had wanted. After the ceremony, they walked back to the saloon together, hand in hand. The townspeople followed, and Hannah opened the doors and invited them in for a drink. It was not much of a celebration, but it was enough. Laughter and music filled the saloon, and for the first time in years, the place felt alive again. As the evening wore on, the guests gradually left, until it was just Hannah and Jasper alone in the empty dance hall. The lamps burned low, casting soft shadows on the walls. Hannah looked around at the place that had been her prison for so long, and realized it was now her home.
Hard to believe this is really happening.
Believe it. We earned this.
Jasper pulled her into his arms, and they swayed slowly to the music that existed only in their heads. The world outside was still dangerous, still unpredictable. But inside the saloon, they were safe. They had each other, and that was all that mattered.
What do we do now?
Now we live. We rebuild. We make this place ours.
Together.
Together.
They danced in the quiet saloon, the lamplight flickering around them. Two souls who had found each other against all odds. The letter was delivered, the villain caught, the town saved. But more than that, they had found something neither of them expected. Love. Trust. A future. Hannah rested her head against Jasper's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat.
I never thought I would feel this way again.
What way?
Safe. Happy. Like I have a home.
You do have a home. Here. With me.
She looked up at him and smiled.
I know.
They stopped dancing and just stood there, holding each other in the middle of the empty dance hall. Outside, the wind had died down completely. The stars were bright overhead, and the night was peaceful. Jasper kissed Hannah's forehead gently.
Let us go upstairs.
Yes.
They climbed the stairs to the room above the saloon, the one that had been Hannah's alone for 5 years. Now it belonged to both of them. Jasper lit the lamp on the small table, and the room filled with warm light. Hannah sat on the edge of the bed, and Jasper sat beside her.
Are you tired?
A little. But I do not want this day to end.
It does not have to. We have all the time in the world now.
She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They sat together in comfortable silence, both of them thinking about everything that had happened. The windstorm, the confrontation, the locket, the wedding. It all felt like a dream, but it was real.
Do you think Crowley will hang?
Probably. The governor will want to make an example of him.
Good. He deserves it.
He does.
Hannah turned to face Jasper, her expression serious.
Thank you. For everything. For staying. For fighting with me. For loving me.
You do not need to thank me. I chose this. I chose you.
I chose you too.
They kissed, slow and tender. And then Hannah stood and began to undress. Jasper watched her, his eyes full of warmth and desire. She slipped under the covers, and he joined her, pulling her close. The lamp burned low, casting soft shadows on the walls. Outside, the town of Blackwater slept, safe and peaceful. Inside the saloon, two hearts beat as one.
I love you, Hannah.
I love you too, Jasper.
They held each other in the darkness, both of them feeling the weight of the past lifting away. The future stretched out before them, full of promise and possibility. Tomorrow they would start rebuilding in earnest. They would repair the saloon, work the land, build a life together. But tonight was just for them. Hannah closed her eyes and let herself sink into the warmth of Jasper's embrace. She felt safe, truly safe, for the first time in years. The letter was gone, the threat eliminated, and she had someone who loved her. Someone who would stand by her no matter what came next. Jasper stroked her hair gently, his touch soothing and tender.
What are you thinking about?
Everything. Nothing. Just how lucky I am.
We are both lucky.
Yes. We are.
They lay together in the quiet darkness, listening to the sounds of the night. The creak of the old building, the distant call of an owl, the soft whisper of wind through the eaves. It was peaceful, and that peace felt like a gift. Hannah thought about the years she had spent alone, running the saloon, carrying the weight of that letter, always looking over her shoulder. She had been strong, but she had also been lonely. Now, she was not alone anymore. She had Jasper, and he had her. They were partners, equals. Two people who had chosen each other and fought for that choice.
Do you think we will have children?
Maybe. If you want them.
I think I do. Someday.
Then, we will.
Hannah smiled in the darkness. It was a simple answer, but it meant everything. They would build a life together, whatever that looked like. Children, a home, a future. All of it was possible now. Jasper pulled her closer, and she felt his breath warm against her neck.
Get some sleep. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
I know.
But sleep did not come easily. Hannah lay awake for a long time, her mind racing with thoughts of what came next. The saloon needed repairs. They would need supplies, money, help from the townspeople. It would be hard work, but she was ready for it. And she would not be doing it alone. Eventually, exhaustion won out, and she drifted off to sleep in Jasper's arms. She dreamed of the future, of the life they would build together. A saloon full of laughter and music. A home full of warmth and love. A family that grew and thrived. When she woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the window. Jasper was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, pulling on his boots. He looked over at her and smiled.
Morning.
Morning.
Hannah stretched and sat up, feeling rested and content.
What time is it?
Early. The sun just came up.
We should get to work.
We should.
But first, they took a moment to just be together. Jasper pulled Hannah into his arms and kissed her, slow and deep. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling.
Ready to start our new life?
More than ready.
They went downstairs together, hand in hand, and opened the doors of the saloon. The morning air was cool and fresh, and Blackwater was waking up around them. People passed by on the street, nodding and calling out greetings. The town felt different now, safer, more hopeful. Hannah and Jasper stood in the doorway, looking out at the world they would build together. The saloon behind them, the town before them, and a future stretching out like the wide open prairie.
This is home now.
Yes, it is.
They turned back inside and got to work, side by side, ready for whatever came next. The letter was delivered, the villain caught, and justice served. But more important than any of that, Hannah and Jasper had found each other. They had fought for their love, and they had won. The rest would come in time. Children, prosperity, peace. But today, they had everything they needed. Each other, a home, and a promise made in the empty dance hall that would last a lifetime. Hannah looked at Jasper and saw her future in his eyes. He looked at her and saw his home. They kissed once more in the doorway of the saloon, the sun rising over Blackwater, and began their life together. A life built on trust, courage, and love that would never fade.